This is the Asus Tuf Gaming B650-Plus Wi-Fi motherboard. The motherboard is an ATX form factor, 12 inches by 9.6 inches. Inside the motherboard comes with 3 M.2 rubbers for single-sided M.2 drives, 2 M.2 screw packages for screwing, 2 SATA cables for cabling, 1 free book for reading before bedtime, stickers, these will make a fine addition to my collection, a certificate that shows the motherboard passed all the tests at the University of Reliability, and a Wi-Fi antenna that looks like the fin of a Silicamorpha to make your PC more fluid dynamic. This board gives me military facility vibes. With the yellow and black caution stickers, the large VRM heatsinks gives the board a nice thickness, and their logo has a nice simplicity. It doesn't ruin the look of this board. This board actually looks tough. And it comes with all the bells and whistles you expect from a B650 board. Let's start with the main features. This board is a Gen 5 board with an AM5 socket, or LGA 1718 if you prefer, for Ryzen 7000 series chips. Supposedly, AMD said the new Zen 5 chips will also use the AM5 socket and will support it till the year 2025. It has an AMD B650 chipset, 4 DIMM slots for up to 4 sticks of RAM with a max capacity of 128GB. It does use DDR5 memory with memory speeds 4800 up to 5600 and up to 6400 mega transfers per second with overclocking enabled. It has 2 PCIe 4x16 slots. The top slot is reinforced and has the 16 lanes running Gen 4 Express lanes directly to the CPU. The other is a PCIe 4x16 slot but only runs 4 lanes to the chipset. It is a 16 size slot but only has 4 Gen 4 lanes. You can plug in 1 to 16 size PCIe cards, but the transfer rate will be limited to the 4 lanes. Furthermore, this lane will be suspended if the M.2 3 is occupied since they share the same bandwidths. This is important because you want the GPU in the top slot naturally to get the most of your card and not handicap it. And the second lane won't work if you have the third M.2 slot occupied. It also has the 2 PCIe 4x1 slots controlled by the chipset as well. This is my best guess from what I could put together on the board. The manual doesn't show the PCIe layout, but Asus site shows the bifurcation for the different chipsets. The layout depends on the manufacturer of the board, so please reference the manual as well as the manufacturer's website, and online forums are also a good place for help. It also has 12+2 power stages rated 60 amps with enlarged VRM heatsinks. Next, we will look at the storage. The first M.2 slot supports PCIe 5x4, that is PCIe Gen 5 lanes for increased data transfer rate. The second M.2 slot supports PCIe 4x4. All the M.2 slots have heatsinks, a nice touch, but not necessary. Looks nice though, and will protect your SSDs if you're ever transporting your PC. The top PCIe 4x16 slot and the first 2 M.2 slots, if I'm correct, shouldn't share lanes and so won't directly impact each other's performance, nor will they affect the GPU performance. I've already mentioned the third M.2 slot, which supports PCIe 4x4 but shares its lanes with the second PCIe 16 slot. I couldn't find the board's PCIe layout, so this is what I'm getting from what I've read from the manual. We also have 4 SATA 6GB per second ports and supports RAID 0, 1, and 10, of course connected to the chipset. Also, we have the audio chipset, Realtek 7.1, surround sound, high definition audio codec. I should also mention it has USB 4 support. It has a Realtek 2.5GB Ethernet and integrated Wi-Fi 6, as well as Bluetooth 5.2. And also important, the board has a 3-year warranty. The motherboard has a 24-pin power header and a 8+4 power header for the CPU. The board has 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A headers and 1 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type C for the front I/O. On the rear I/O, we have the HDMI and display ports for CPUs that have integrated graphics. Next, we have two USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A USB ports for fast transfer speeds, a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C port, a USB 3.2 Gen 2x2 for really fast transfer speeds, 4 USB 2.0 ports, a Realtek 2.5G Ethernet port, Wi-Fi 6 antenna connectors, 5 plugs for audio, and has a BIOS flashback button. For $219.99 US or $279.99 Canadian, it's not an inexpensive entry board into the next gen of PC hardware. So would I recommend this board? It depends. Do you want your PC to look like an industrial powerhouse, a board that can carry you at least until DDR6 comes out with plenty of expansion slots and an M.2 Gen 5 slot? Then this board may be for you. Or do you want something more budget friendly? Go for a cheaper B650 board. Want something that can help you overclocks? And while completely future-proofing, I use that term lightly, by getting something with a PCIe 5 16 slot, then maybe skip this one and go for an X series board. I look at it like this: you don't technically need Gen 5 at all. Last gen parts are so cheap, if you could use the money elsewhere, I would do that, especially if the computer is not a significant source of income. But if you have a large disposable income, then I would go Gen 5. And if anyone ever says you won't ever use all that power before the board becomes obsolete, tell them it's my money and I say more power. Technology waits for no one. If it did, we would still have buggies powered by horsies. No, instead they're powered by dynos. DDR5 may not increase your reaction time or help your decision making in games, but it may give you a few more frames to help you spot the enemy before they spot you in newer competitive titles. You can also resell it in the future if you decide to upgrade to another board. Of course, you won't get the original price you paid for it, but it's an option. But seriously, you don't need all this. Just make sure you're financially safe first. I personally still have a Gen 4 board with a 10th Gen 6-core Intel CPU and a 3060 Ti with a Gen 3 SSD, and I'm not planning to upgrade anytime soon. If you want to see this board in action in an upcoming future video, subscribe to stay in the tech of things.